recording here. All right, let's start. Thank you, everybody, for coming to the Awake and Thriving podcast. Today, we have with us Dr. Ferro. He is the founder of Better Health. That is betrhealth.com. Welcome, Dr. Ferro.
Hi, so great to be here with you.
Yes, I was reading over your website, which has amazing content in it. So I really do advise people to go there and check it out because I was taking the quiz there. I don't have my results yet, but I'm really excited to see what comes from that. So you are all about gut health, and I love that. And I know that that's a word that a lot of people use nowadays, but we don't really know what gut health is. We know like you have to use the restroom daily, but yeah. What is gut health?
Interesting is that it's become this new topic, tons of research on it. I would say that as a chiropractor, I've been called a quack a time or two in my life. So 15 years ago, when I started talking about these little microorganisms that could really affect everything from cancer, diabetes to anxiety and, impossible weight loss, people were like, yeah, right. Show me the proof. So now, luckily, the scientific instruments have caught up and have started studying this. Taking two mice, one that was obese, one that was thin, and exchanging their fecal matter, which is a big part of your gut microbiome, and showcasing that one mouse could lose weight versus the other. A mouse that was exhibiting anxious type behavior, swapping out the microbiome and seeing them calm down. And so now all of the studies have come out and I don't look so quacky anymore. But what's more interesting to that is that this is ancient wisdom. This is Hippocrates is the one who said, look well to the gut for the root of all disease. And, boy, he nailed it. And so we're seeing that more and more. So when you talk about gut health, oftentimes people will look at, like they always do, disease is the most peddled product in the world. They always find a way to peddle it to us, put a name on it. And it's on both sides of the coin. It's not just on the prescription medicine side, it's also on the alternative, right? So, gut health is a new thing. Well, we'll sell you a probiotic. We'll sell you this stuff, that you have to have this slippery elm root. And then on the medicine side, they say, how can we get in the game as well? So to me, gut health essentially means letting your body live with ease. So you have 10 trillion cells in your body, roughly, but you have 300 trillion natural bacteria. And that bacteria lives on your skin and in your digestive system. So oftentimes when you think of your digestive system, you think, oh, well, this is an internal organ. Well, really, it's an external organ connected to your skin. So if you look at someone's complexion, that gives you a good indication of the quality of their internal gut health, meaning the lining of the skin of the digestive system, the small intestines, the large intestines, the stomach. And so that's what some people would refer to gut health. But gut health has these very important helpers, which is the microbiome, which is the bacteria that help the gut do its job. So it's really twofold. It's both the hidden, amazing characters that play part of this story that we've never given credit to, constantly from our environment chemicals. But those crusaders work along that gut lining to give you what I consider overall gut health.
So having poor gut health so you'll have skin problems, you'll have all sorts of problems, even autoimmune problems.
Absolutely. Autoimmune diseases have just skyrocketed. So we know that diabetes has skyrocketed. We know that obesity has skyrocketed, hypertension, but this hidden pandemic is the autoimmune issues. And it's all related. We were on this trajectory like in the early 90s or late 80s where we were having some weight loss issues. And then suddenly we went like this. Well, what else went like that? Autoimmune, obesity, anxiety, depression, skin issues. And actually for the first time in history, our children have a lower life expectancy than we do. So what is it? Is it that the most approach right now is about punishment. It's about telling the human, well, you're just a bad person. Europeans will say, you Americans are so fat, right? And then they'll say, you're fat and lazy. And then in the next breath, they say, we work too hard and never stop and smell the roses. So which is it? Well, okay, yeah, we're fat. We've gained a lot of weight, but that's due to the inflammation and the stress we're under. We're not lazy people. We're Americans. We've worked incredibly hard. And it is true, we haven't stopped and smelled the roses. And if we do, they're usually chemically modified roses, genetically modified roses that it's supposed to smell like roses. So we've just toxified our environment. And now we're expecting humans to perform. we're expecting them to perform. And then when they don't perform, we blame them. And then what do? We add more chemicals and punishment on top of that. We start to make them flip tires in parking lots. No offense, CrossFit. We have them eat chalky shakes and count calories like Rain Man and watch their weight and be so weight conscious that every morsel of food they put in their body, they're like, oh my God, I'm going to pay for that tomorrow. When really it's the digestive health that is, the root issue here. And it's I should say it's the issue that's starting all the chronic illness, but the root cause is a horrible environment.
And what do you think are some of the main suspects or offenders in our environment that are contributing to our poor gut health?
So number one, it's what our food, right? Or if you call it food, it's the process nature of our food that is overwhelming the digestive system. The overuse of antibiotics is the second culprit. This isn't just saying, like, if I were to prescribe to you a oral antibiotic and you take it, you have dysbiosis, which basically means your biome's broken or it's off. Your microbiome is disrupted for up to a year after taking one course of antibiotics. Do you know how many children and babies we're giving antibiotics to? They haven't even got a chance to even get the mother's good microbiome, particularly if you're a C-section baby. So a lot of this is starting at birth or even before birth. And then you add in the culprits of, oh, we'll give an antibiotic just in case. And then you say, well, Dr. Ferro, I don't give my kids antibiotics. I'm anti-antibiotic, right? I haven't done that. Okay, well, if you eat meat, we know that it's being passed to you in the meat and in the rivers and in the water. So it's this hidden thing that is incredibly easy to ignore, which we've ignored, but incredibly hard to avoid at the same time. And so culprits would be processed food, artificial sweeteners, which they've given us that in droves, right? Zero, Coach Zero, and all this other stuff. And then you add the antibiotics in there. That toxicity, those top three culprits can be a big issue. The fourth one, and the one particularly for women are using on average 14 to 16 personal care products each day. So oftentimes they complain, how come my husband can just do this and he loses weight so quickly, or he gets better quickly? Well, he's not swimming in toxification daily. Where if, as a female, you have a lot more of those products. And if you look at the bottom of those products, this is chemicals. This is straight petroleum. Literally, if it says oil, you're putting petroleum on your face. And that's because your skin is that largest organ, it's actually going to your body and making that disruption. So those are my top four in line items. And if you just be aware that those top four are causing distress, reducing those and drinking more water will eradicate most of your chronic conditions. It seems simple, but that's how your body was designed.
Yeah. And it's funny you're talking about the skin stuff for women, because in the last probably 2 months, I've been paying more attention to the ingredients in all of my products. And I have been changing them all because I realized that no one really, they said paraben free or free of dyes, but they didn't say why we should use that. So everyone just thought, honestly, it was like a hippie thing. Like, oh, I'm just not going to use that. That just costs more money. And it's just like a phase. But as I've gotten older, I've been paying more attention to what I put on my skin. And I realized we've been putting some horrible stuff on our skin, and having to go through all of your products in your home, not only as a person, but as a female, it can be expensive. It could be extensive and take some time as well.
Agreed. And for years, so I've been doing this now. So I was a chiropractor first. I put chiropractic offices in health clubs. And I had about 30 of them across the country. And what made me come to this realization is I was watching people do the Zumba classes 3 times a week, eat quote unquote healthy, have their whole wheat turkey and their banana and their yogurt, everything that was told to you in every magazine out there, and working out with a trainer and never getting anywhere. And then what would happen is we would send them back into the medical society system, test their thyroid, just everything. And then they'd end up empty. And so the personal trainers in the gym would be like, well, you're just lazy and unmotivated. You must be cheating, eating food. I've seen you leave my class and go in the parking lot and eat McDonald's. And I'll put a pin in that one because I'm going to tell you why that happens. And then secondly, the doctors will say, well, you must just be eating crap because I've tested everything and I don't know what to do with you anymore. So here, take this medication and come back and we'll put more medications on top of more medications. So after seeing that, I was like, this is crazy. I'm watching people that are motivated and trying to do something. It can't be this hard. Why should we have to be so hard to maintain our weight, our blood pressure, our blood sugar? It shouldn't be. We weren't designed to be on this earth to suffer. That's crazy. But yet we've kind of come to know that in our culture, like this should be a suffer. You should always have to think about your weight. You should always have to think about this and think about your health. It's like, that's not how we're designed to live. So I started researching gut health. I started giving people good gut healthy foods to eat. And then I realized through elimination reintroduction that everybody's different. And once I came to that epiphany, it was like, oh, this is easy. And people started losing weight like crazy, keeping it off. Skin, then they started reporting things like my skin's better. And I was like, I wonder why that is. So all of this led to, various, discoveries throughout the process. But ultimately, people would come to me and say, all right, you've told me all the stuff. What about skincare? What should I do for my skincare? And I could never find a product that I would promote ever. And weirdly enough, I'm at a dinner party and I'm hanging out. And it was a bunch of guys. It wasn't even a dinner party with like females. It was a bunch of dudes. I think we were watching a football game or something. And I'm sitting there and we're talking and the guy asked me about my business. And I said, yeah, this now. He goes, oh, my uncle's really into that. He has a skincare line. And this is local here in North Carolina. I said, he does? He said, yeah, it's really all natural. I said, you know what, man, I've heard it all before. It's probably not all natural. He goes, no, my uncle's like big into it. He's a Yale biochemist and he's an Ayurvedic. His mom was an Ayurvedic practitioner. He's an Indian dude. You should check him out. So I went to his place and he blew me away by taking his product and saying, here's my moisturizer, here's this. And he poured it out and he ate it. And he said, every ingredient in here is a plant and it's the whole plant. And these are natural ingredients. They're so natural, I can eat it. And I would tell people, never put something on your skin that you would not ingest in your mouth because it's going to the same place.
Wow.
And so he created this product line. It's called OM Botanical, OM Botanical. We put it on our site just as a path through because he's still this like mom and pop guy here in Apex, North Carolina. But his products are so stinking good. That he's got this vitamin C oil you put on, because oil's not bad. You want oil in your face. People think that they got to avoid oil. You want to avoid petroleum oil and all the other crap they put in it, but like rosehip oil and natural vitamin C from Bing cherries. So long story short is there is some stuff out there and you only need a few products. If your gut is healthy, you're drinking water, you're eating your fruits and vegetables, you're getting that, you only need a few products, like a good cleanser, moisturizer, and some rosehip oil or the vitamin C oil, and you're going to glow.
I think for women, I'm not like a huge makeup person that I'll like go to super fancy places, but I found with trying to change my makeup, like mascara, just everything like that, it's a process because not everything is as clean as you want it to be, but then it doesn't work the way you want it to be. It's
right.
It's something, but it's something that I'm doing. So I can't fight that part.
Absolutely.
All right. So let's see. Did we talk a little bit about, I think we went over probiotics. What is your stance on that?
Yeah. So you'll see, like, I have a probiotic supplement on our store, but I always tell people, I'm like, it's food first, right? The supplements are that extra level of insurance. So all the recipes that I give people will have like an apple cider vinegar base so that there's some good healthy bacteria in there. We'll promote them to have some kombucha, some kefir, some fermented sauerkraut. So you're going to get much better probiotics from natural living substances that your body can actually do something with, and you're going to get a more diverse array. The probiotic, without eating good healthy food and without having prebiotic, and what a prebiotic is essentially is fiber. So when you eat an apple, and that's why again, another ancient wisdom, an apple a day would keep the doctor away. You eat that apple, that fiber goes undigested until it gets to the large intestines, and it's insoluble, so you can't digest it. What it does is it ferments in the large intestines. Well, guess what loves to eat off that? Good, healthy bacteria. So if you're not having the good, healthy fruit, vegetables in your diet, when you go to add a probiotic, it has nothing to live off of, which can be one of the, the reasons why you would never want to have, specify one diet over another, because you need a diverse array, because your bacteria want to be diverse. And so you get that prebiotic in there, and then you're eating the good, healthy foods. And then a probiotic and a digestive enzyme could be a great next level of kind of security. But without doing those other things, you're kind of, I wouldn't say you're wasting your money. It's probably still better than nothing. but you're really not getting you're not going to get like amazing gut health just by taking a probiotic.
Because there's more to that. That's almost just like a little Band-Aid.
Absolutely. And because if you don't reduce at Better Health, we say we're reversing the intergenerational chronic disease. So it's not just I'm not just focusing on diabetes too. I have people coming off insulin, fully coming off insulin and metformin and anxiety medications very quickly, but that's not my goal. My goal is to put the body back in ease. And for us, dis-ease, the DIS stands for stress, inflammation, and doubt. So the more stressors we have, the more inflammation it creates. The more inflammation, the more insulin resistance, the more fat you gain, the more hormonal balance is off. And then you never win, right? Because everybody's always failed over and over again. So they have doubt. And that kind of continues. So adding a probiotic, I'm like, whoa, this guy said that gut health will help me reverse chronic disease. Like just taking that one supplement is just a small little part of it.
Okay. Oh, you know what? So you're talking about the supplements, and I don't know if we touched on this. So obviously your intestines are your natural detox of your body. So if those aren't functioning well, then your body's not able to get rid of toxicities readily. So with your program, I know the first level or phase is purification. So during purification, what are like the bad foods that you don't like people to take? I'm thinking one might be dairy, because I feel like nobody likes dairy.
Yeah, so we try to meet people where they're at. I think prior, when we were chatting before the podcast, we talk about like name diets, right? Like
yes.
And I understand why someone might do keto and say it's got to be keto, because they get results, right? They get super excited that finally something gave them results. Or someone who does the carnivore diet, or sometimes along the way, someone gets it, and then you're like, dude, you drank the Kool-Aid. You're all about this diet. And if you say anything different, they're like, you're bad. And I get it, because it worked for them, right? So sometimes people come to say, well, I eat pretty good. Yeah, but for whom? How do you know? And so with our food list, what we'd like to do first on level one is like, all right, well, we know it's about octane and it's the right fuel for you. But if the tank, the engine tank, doesn't absorb it, utilize it, or move it to the engine, your fuel tank, we have to first fix that first. So we choose foods that are less likely to cause inflammation and distress in the most amount of people. And I've only been able to clinically observe this, meaning that when you're working with one of our coaches, we give you a coach for 30 days every single day, help you plan this out. Because if you have a family, you're not going to just suddenly just start eating weird food and they can't eat with you. This is a whole family approach. So you got to make the food work. And then we actually make them take pictures of their lunch and dinner and their snacks, because we want to help them build a picture, an analytics picture, over 30 days. So when they go into the reintroduction phase, they can figure out what foods are causing them distress. And that distress could be poor sleep, energy, mood, but discomfort. They could see something in their skin, or they just don't feel right. There's many different ways where the scale goes in the wrong direction. But what we do is initially we give them a list of foods that have certain fruits, vegetables. We do ask them to remove dairy for at least the first 3 days. We ask them to remove processed sugars for the first 3 days, and alcohol for the first 3 days. So here's my little hint, wink, wink. So I always tell people, I only need 3 good days. Every day after that's your choice. And they're like, all right, I can do this for 3 days, doc. And then what ends up happening is they feel so amazing just in the first 3 days, because the good thing about your gut bacteria, it grows so quickly and replenishes so quickly, and you reduce the inflammation so quickly, that people will lose like 2 to 3 pounds in the first 3 days. And they'll feel better, because you can do any diet and lose weight quickly, right? You could do the keto diet in the same amount and see that weight loss. But what's different is, because you're eating a diverse array of food and you're focusing on your digestive health, you feel better doing it. You're not hungry. You feel like, oh, this is unique. You don't feel like you're, restricting yourself. And then on the 4th day, what do you think most people choose after they're down 2 to 3 pounds and they're feeling good? They're like, I'm not going to have dairy. I'm not going to have gluten. And what's cool is that around the 30-day point, and some people only go 3 weeks, but whenever they decide to start doing the reintroduction, which we leave up to them, when they do bring in dairy, some people will realize, I don't feel so bad. I thought I always had a dairy issue, but it turns out I can tolerate a good, healthy dairy, a real dairy, not a cheese product, like a good organic cheese, or a good, whole milk, or a good yogurt that they can actually deal with. Same thing for gluten. So we've villainized gluten and dairy, but maybe that's just because we're super inflamed. Like if I came back from a war zone and a book dropped, I'd be like, hey, what's that? Well, that's kind of how our body is, because it's always in an inflamed state. But once you take down inflammation, maybe you can have some dairy and gluten and not have a freak out internally all the time. So we start with those specific foods. And oftentimes when people look at my list, they'll see like tomatoes and peppers, and they'll say, Doc, what about nightshades? You know, there's a whole guy out there that hates nightshades, lectins, and, you know, and he or she can prove that case to me in literature. I'm like, you know what, you got me. Like, I should never eat a tomato again. I just haven't observed it clinically to stop people. And so I'm about what's doing better and what works. We're going to start here, and then you figure it out on your own. And so, but, you know, I'm roundabout way to say, yeah, gluten and dairy would be the first things that I remove, just to remove that variable, but not because I think they're bad for you. Okay.
And the dairy, I think I do have an issue with dairy, but I've never been tested. So this is a good question for you. Is being bloated and all of that, is that normal gut health? Is having constipation? I mean, that sounds silly to ask, but some people don't go poo or number two for 3 or 4 days, and they say that's normal for them. No, so I mean, tell me that.
Yeah, some people can normal could be 2 days, you know, that, you know, even up to 3 for some folks, but generally, you know, once a day, once every 2 days seems to be kind of what I observe to be the norm. And the quality of that stool is important to look at. So a lot of people come to me and say, all right, I might be allergic to dairy, gluten. I've never, like you said, I've never got tested. The jury's out on those tests. I was so. The reason how I know is because I failed with so many people trying so many things. I mean, admittedly, I tried to put people on Metafast shakes back, you know, 2002, because I couldn't figure out what else to do to help them. You know, here I'm working on their physical structure, and people kept saying, Doc, it's my back. And I'm like, no, I think it's your front. We have to first get rid of all that weight. Otherwise it's not going to work. I tried that. I tried saliva testing. I tried the poop testing where we looked at the microbiome. I tried the food allergy sensitivity testing. You know, with the IgG stuff, and then it would come out with this booklet of everything they can eat. And then we did it via DNA, thinking, well, that's got to be the holy grail. Like, this is exact. It's not exact. You can even take that stupid test, and 8 months later, based upon DNA, it will be different. And the reason why is 99% of your gene expression comes from your digestive system. So if your digestive system's off when you're taking these tests, that's the one, you know, exclusion criteria right there. So the way I found is like, why take all that unnecessary money in testing? Let's just put it into good, healthy food, and then do this experiment once in your life on yourself. Forget what every expert out there. There's 250,000 books written on diet and nutrition. Not all of them are right, not all of them are wrong. But as you said, someone be like, I'm a keto god, it's the greatest. Or why don't you just create your own blueprint or food print for yourself by doing this 30-day, 60 elimination, and focus on the digestive health part of it. And I'm telling you, like, we watch people in their 80s and 70s get pissed off. They're like, I've been battling my weight all these years, and who knew it was quinoa, Greek yogurt, and raspberries? I mean, that's crazy that that you could think that broccoli for one person could just cause all this distress, and for somebody else, it's no problem.
Yeah, because we were talking a little bit before we started recording, and I know somebody that is regular, but they have some extra weight, and even though they eat, I've seen what they eat, and they eat well, but they can't drop any weight, and they've always been addicted to keto way. But I'm like, the keto way is not working for you. Something's off. But their poo test came back and told him that he was like amazing. He had the best poop, in like out of 90% of people, he had the best poop. And I was like, there's something off about that test. You still need,
and he still could have good poop, but he may also have underlying inflammation, which this is what it sounds like, right? He has this something is chronically inflaming him, creating insulin resistance, which stores fat. And the more fat, or I call it potential energy you have, it also holds on to more inflammation. So you kind of get stuck in that vicious cycle. And what ends up happening is in January, particularly after this pandemic, with all the mental, emotional, physical, and chemical stresses we've been under, we show up to the gym now, the gyms are back open, or the trainer like, all right, let's do it. And you take a car, we'll use a car analogy, that is overloaded with bricks, And those bricks create more stress and friction on the body. And then we say, what's the best course of action here? I know, let's just start flipping tires in the parking lot and running you to death. It makes no sense. They need to rehab. And so what ends up happening is that same person that rushes to the gym, rushes to do the fitness. And I'm not bad about gyms. We're a nutrition partner for Echelon Fitness, the At Home. We're a nutrition partner for EOS Fitness. But what we've uncovered is, if we don't focus on the nutrition first and you have that inflammation going on and it creates extra stress in the exercise, your adrenal glands get stuck in that fight or flight mode. They're secreting norepinephrine and adrenaline. And like any other muscle in the body, they need to be replenished, and they'll start to crave sodium, potassium, and sugar. So that's why the person exercises with the trainer in the morning, has an amazing lunch, has a salad, whatever. And then by 3 o'clock, they're about to pick up the kids at the carpool, and they're going through the Chick-fil-A drive-through, like pounding French fries in a thing, because they just can't even help how ravenous they are. And then, of course, they feel horrible, like they're a bad person and it's something mental with them. And they have to now go to Tony Robbins to find out why they're self-sabotaging themselves. It's a physiological demand on a body. Just like if you ran a marathon, you'd have a physiological demand. We have to let people off the hook and stop trying to shrink their brains and rewire it and realize this is just a physiological. You're putting too much demand on your body without the right physiology to support it. And if we start micro locally with that physiology and the gut health, it's like so simple. I can't even tell you.
Wow. And it's ironic that you talked about salt, referencing the person that has too many bricks in their vehicle, because that person says he needs salt a lot. He's like, oh, I need salt. Like I need salt on all this stuff. And he puts so much salt on stuff. I was like, I know we need some salt. I know having a healthy level of salt is where we need to survive. Like otherwise we'll have major issues, but that's too much.
Well, and not the stuff that the stuff that's on the tables at all the restaurants is not salt. It's chemical manufactured, versus like a Himalayan sea salt or pink salt your body can actually assimilate. And this said person is craving this stuff. And no matter what he does, it's going to be insatiable because of that inflammation that's putting distress, that's causing him to be in that chronic fight or flight mode. And although that person is also eating really well, I guarantee that type of salt, every time they try to exercise or have real stress, they're closet crunch killing Doritos at night. And then of course they don't want to say that, but that's what's happening. And it happens to everybody, right? Even those people that you're like, oh my God, you stay skinny no matter what happens. Doesn't mean they're healthy, right? They're also, when they're stressed, they're chowing down on some stuff too. It just may not show up as fat. It may show up in other ways, like an autoimmune condition.
Yeah. Cause 20 years ago, I was 20 pounds lighter, but I wasn't healthy.
Right.
I just wasn't, because even though I was a lot thinner, I actually wasn't healthy and I wasn't happy with my body. So that was just the cards I was dealt.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people don't like hearing about people that are thin not being happy with their body, but
right.
It's true.
Yes. We have to let everybody off the hook. My co-host for my podcast, Erin, she's a newscaster and she's super fit. And when she talks about I want to just drop like 3 or 4 more pounds, people get mad at her. It's like, leave her alone. That's what makes her feel good, right? Just like we're going to leave you alone if if you're really 50 pounds, quote unquote overweight, but you feel better when you're only 20 pounds overweight. Who would say?
Yeah.
As long as you're feeling good and you have low inflammation in your body and you're going to live your best life ever, everybody should be left off the hook when it comes to how healthy they want to feel and be.
Yeah, definitely. I'm going to take that test and I'm going to see where I land, and I'm going to send that to my friend to see if I can get him to join that. So let's see. Oh, we were right on this subject. And so we don't have to detour that far. Salt and sugar. What do you think about both of those? Because some people villainize salt, villainize sugar. And I know the artificial ones are not the greatest when it comes to sweeteners, but what do you think on both of those?
First thing you got to eradicate, if I'm going to ban any substance on the planet, it's got to be artificial sweeteners. Like that, there's no way. It's just, you got to get rid of that. Second would be, your refined sugar, right? So if you're going to have sugar in a cup of coffee, then have some honey, have some, sugar in the raw. It's okay to have a little bit of that added sweetener, a little bit, right? And if you're in the right spot, you'll find so a lot of times when people go through the program initially, they're so fearful of that. I'm like, hey, eat off this list for a few days. then when they're feeling so good and I try to get them to introduce the foods back, like, no, I don't want to go. And I'm like, wait, you're the one complaining just 4 weeks ago that I was going to hold you to this one little list to get a baseline. And now you don't want to add because you're feeling good. And so it's even harder to get them to add in some sugar and some sweeteners. Like, you should be able to have a piece of cake on Friday, right? Like, you should be able to have ice cream. You should, I'm not saying you should have it every day. Of course, your body can't process that, but you should be able to have it. When you do have it, make sure it's awesome, organic, whole, and when you look for these things that zero sugar, stay away from it, right? If you want a little bit of you go get a slice of pizza and you just want a little bit of a Coca-Cola or a Pepsi, then just have it, right? And then of course have water and do the other things to help you flush it out. But as soon as you start adding those chemicals, you're in trouble. So for me, I'm not a sugar Nazi. I feel like if it's good quality sugar and you have it in moderation, you should be able to enjoy it, especially since your microbiome being checked. And most of that sugar you're going to get from fruits and vegetables, strawberries. I can't tell you how many diabetic twos we have that are so fearful when I'm like, yeah, you can have apples and oranges, and they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, you need it. You need that fiber. You need the diverse array of your microbiome. And then you asked me, what was the second question? So sugar and salt. Himalayan sea salt, your body needs it. Definitely put it on your food. Obviously, if you have cardiac issues and you're worried, I always say check with your doctor. But generally, when people are coming on and work with us, within 3 to 4 weeks, if someone's on hypertensive medication, they end up losing about 5 to 7% of their body weight in the first 30 days, which typically was taboo. Like, they would say, don't lose weight fast because you're just going to gain it right back. And that's true if you do it in an unsustainable way. But if you do it in a way that you're fueling and feeding your body without counting calories, which I don't have people count calories, I'm like, just eat this good quality food. You're going to have to reduce your blood pressure medication, and that you don't have salt doesn't have to be the villain. In fact, sometimes if you have no salt, that actually can make it worse. So I would say artificial and refined sugar is more of the culprit than natural sugar and salt and Himalayan sea salt. The stuff they put on the diners that's super white, that's a chemical. So yeah, so that's not the one that's manufactured, and that one's not going to do well in the body.
Okay. So that's awful to know that we've probably been putting that salt on our food for how long?
Yes, and it's in all the processed food. So if you're buying stuff that's, in a bag, that's on a shelf, it's probably got that bad salt in it. And so we always like, oh, only X amount of grams of sodium, but what type of sodium? Sodium chloride versus a Himalayan sea salt that's naturally mined in your body. Take the good test is to take a little bit of that iodized table salt and then take the Himalayan sea salt and just watch how little of the Himalayan sea salt you need to get the same taste factor.
All right, so I'm going to ask you a fun question.
Okay.
What is your favorite breakfast in the morning?
So favorite would be pancakes. My favorite fuel in the morning is something I do every day pretty much is I like hard-boiled eggs, and I like salsa and a half a guacamole with Himalayan sea salt and pepper on top. So I crave that quite a bit. And I think it gives me the fat, the salt, and probably the protein that I'm craving, and some of the carbohydrates from the tomatoes. So that's probably like my go-to and the one that I do crave a lot, but my favorite is I love pancakes. I don't eat them every day, but I think actually I went fishing early morning. I took my son fishing early morning on Saturday or Sunday during the Memorial Day weekend, and we went to a pancake place. So it's about moderation and enjoying some pancakes.
Yeah, definitely. I like some pancakes too. I like the ones that they put cinnamon on them, like a cinnamon swirl. Oh, so good. All right, one more question. So what are some of the misconceptions about gut health that you encounter with your patients that are really common?
That's a good one. I would, not to skirt that answer, but I would say that most folks that are coming to me don't really know a lot about it. Which because I'm in it all day long, I'm like, everybody must know this, but I even had to learn this with our website, that we had to not say the word gut health as much. It's changed probably in the last year. We've been able to say it more, But I would say even 2 years ago, people are like, what are you talking about? What is that? So I don't know if I don't know if I've actually observed misconceptions. I think what's more of an enlightening part for them is to know that what's so cool about bacteria and why you should start there first is that as fast, everyone thinks bacteria is fast growing, right? It is, it's super fast growing, but they think of it in a negative way. But in a positive way, it can replenish itself. So your gut lining actually every 14 days or so is completely shed and a new one is there. So it should be beautiful news to everybody that this isn't one of these, like, if I have 80 pounds to lose or 150 pounds to lose or 30 pounds or I have anxiety, I have acid reflux, eczema, psoriasis, acid reflux. Many of these things can see incredible changes just within the first few days to a few weeks because the gut is so quickly adapting and changing out. And that good bacteria grows. As an example, from the negative side, like we had Dr. Wishmeyer from Duke University, they're showing studies that just taking a probiotic can actually keep people who have COVID off a ventilator and other respiratory symptoms, because how important gut health is to your immune system. But what he was describing, he was saying patients will show up in the ER and their gut bacteria will be, let's say, 70% good and 30% bad, which is how it should be. Within 24 hours, it's completely shifted. Now it's got 70%, almost 90% bad, and only 30% good, because he said the bad actors signal their friends. So when your gut is off, it's actually making it easier for the bad bacteria to survive. When you reset, the good news though is the 24-hour rule is within 24 hours of eating good healthy foods and adding in some probiotic foods like apple cider vinegar and kefir and things of that nature, and fermented foods, it can start to replenish itself very quickly. So that's kind of the misconception, like, oh, this is going to take forever to me to reset my digestive system. No, it actually, within the first few days alone of eating this way and reducing some of the other stressors, you can see tremendous results.
I know that's going to give a lot of people relief to know that, because you think internal stuff will take forever sometimes to rehabilitate.
It's simple, everybody. It is simple, and it should be simple. Why we would not have been designed this way. We're beautiful, we're amazing. We just have barriers to that expression, and this is a simple way to reverse it.
Beautiful. All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Ferro, for coming on. You've had amazing knowledge and information for everybody in the audience.
I appreciate it. We're going to do part 2. We have so much more to talk about. I'm definitely coming back for part 2. I appreciate the discussion, the questions, and look forward to hearing the podcast myself.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Okay.